Share with us a little bit of the evolution of Scottie's game and swing. I think this is really interesting.
When he was small, I mean little, I'm talking 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, he would hit all kinds of shots. He had a 4-iron, he would hit low and bury it at a post. He'd hit the same post with the sand wedge. He could hit hooks, he could hit fades, and the reason he did, he just figured out kind of the feel for them. And most of that came from watching other players. And that's what's so much fun for the younger players. They watch older players, and they're such sponges of information. And I think that Scottie was the primary example of being a sponge of information off other players.
With 18 national awards, Randy Smith is the all-time leading PGA of America National Award winner.
This is an overwhelming honor.
In 2005, he was inducted into the PGA of America's Hall of Fame.
Our 1996 PGA Golf Professional of the Year, Randy Smith.
Randy's been at Royal Oaks Country Club in Dallas, Texas for more than 40 years.
So the whole key is to get the whole shaft over this direction.
And remains there today as the Director of Instruction. Most notably, Randy's worked with 12-time PGA Tour winner and major champion Justin Leonard. He's also worked with PGA Tour players such as Gary Woodland, Scott Verplank, Harrison Frazier, Martin Laird, and Colt Knost.
Randy Smith, I owe so much of this to you.
Currently, Randy works with 4-time PGA Tour winner Ryan Palmer, as well as our other guest today, Scottie Scheffler. After 2 wins on the Korn Ferry Tour, Scheffler was named Player of the Year in 2019. Scheffler hasn't won on the PGA Tour yet, but he racked up 7 top 10s in his rookie campaign during the 2019-20 season, earning him the honor of PGA Tour Rookie of the Year.
Randy, beautiful day here in Dallas, Texas.
Well, I'm glad you can say that, Chris.
Now, we got Scottie Scheffler with us today. Randy, you've probably brought more golfers from a very young age, junior, to the tour than possibly anybody else. I don't know that as a stat, but this, from what I've seen, I'm going to guess that's probably true. Talk us a little bit through the overall arc of taking a person from that young of an age to the highest level of golf.
Well, I appreciate that compliment too, but it has an awful lot to do with being here at Royal Oaks. We've been so fortunate to have so many kids that have come up, and that makes it a lot easier. You get awfully lucky, but it's been fun to watch, especially Scottie's progress from the time I first saw him. I think he was around 7 years old, and to see what he's doing now, it's a lot of fun. It's very gratifying.
So, do you have any early memories of coming out here that you?
Yeah, I remember being really young out here and watching the older guys like Colt Knost, Harrison Frazier, and Justin and those guys. Just spending a lot of time around them.
Now, what are some of the things that you see when a golfer is developing over the years? Obviously, people's bodies change, their swings probably change a little bit. Mm-hmm. How do you navigate all the potential landmines that go into developing as a golfer?
I tell you what, it can be very tricky, but there's always been, I think with every good junior player, when they start out, their foundation fundamentals are reasonably what they can do, how they can set it up. If they know how they set up, they grip the club, so forth and so on, and they can maintain those ABCs through their growth spurts. Especially Scottie, when he hit his, good Lord, he went straight up. And normally you see a kid do that, they still have the little guy stance, and all of a sudden they're in the big guy frame, and they forget this part. And so you've got to make sure that the stance width, things like that move with the way the body's growing.
Yeah, absolutely. And Scottie, how tall are you now?
6'3".
So,
yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like to have your body change and how your game had to evolve with it?
Yeah, my body changed a lot early in high school, and I would say my golf game didn't really catch up till probably a couple years ago, to where my swing finally felt normal again. And there was a lot of conversations Randy and I'd have where he would keep reminding me just to be patient and not worried, just because I'm just getting used to my body. And you know, things started hurting. I didn't feel great, and it was a little bit weird, but ended up making through it.
I mean, that's a great lesson, right? Because the juniors, if their body changes and they were playing at one level, and then all of a sudden they get into a little bit of a funk as their body's changing, that's sort of expected. So you got to be patient with that.
You do, and the thing about it is, you kind of have to replace what the product says. Look how, you know, tell them, look how much further you're hitting the ball now. Just use that distance to our advantage, you know. Do something, because it really does, it changes things a great deal.
Yeah.
Especially if you look at their hands on the golf club. You know, Scottie had a little, what I would call a different grip when he was smaller. It was very odd.
It was pretty bad. We tried to fix it a bunch of times.
Yeah, but you know, it was a little bit of this and that, but as soon as he got stronger in his hands, yeah, oh, now I can even feel my hands more. So there's always a positive to offset that growth spurt where they feel a little bit bad about the game.
That's a testimony to your coaching, is to be able to kind of frame those things as positives, even though someone might be struggling, but it's like, hey, look, light is at the end of the tunnel because of this or that. So if we were to go over some of the key points for a golfer trying to develop over the years, one, you have your fundamentals. How do you maintain that throughout the years as your body's changing, as things are changing?
Well, number one, you have to pay attention to them.
Yep.
You know, until this very day, every once in a while, his lower body and his rear end, to this day, go a little bit asleep when he's hitting a golf ball. He's got such marvelous hands and arms in his golf swing. His hands are phenomenal. And it works a lot better when his lower body is supporting the load of the golf club. And every once in a while, Scottie's lower body gets a little sitty and it doesn't turn back as well as it should. So on the way through, you know, you see the old one of these, and he just hates it. So we have to pay attention to little things like that.
You keep talking about how he's got great hands. Would you say part of that was developed from hitting all those shots you'd mentioned, working the ball both ways?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, just being able to do it. See, most younger players, they're working on the golf swing. They want to have a golf swing, the swing. And they work on a lot of this and all that kind of stuff. But you don't see them so much out there moving golf balls and seeing what they can do. You know, you see the parents come in, they go, he's hitting all these goofy shots. I mean, you know, he just doesn't pay attention. I said, well, he may be paying attention more than we think, because he understands a little of this creates that. Maybe a little of this creates another shot. High, low, change everything up a little bit, do something different. And when you get on the golf course, it's amazing. You know, the hardest shot for a lot of them is to be in the middle of the fairway with a perfect number to a middle pin. How much did you put in on your short game when you were little?
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of time. We used to have some buddies, we'd just come out here and mess around on the short game area. And
any gambling involved in that? It was back.
I thought I'm going to say on TV, wasn't you?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
But the cool thing about it, like working on the short game and being interested in the short game, when you're little guys, okay, and you're going through it, what's the only way you're going to compete with a bigger player? Your short game. And then guess what happens? When your growth spurt and strength spurt hits you,
now you're really beating them.
Whoa, then guess what you get to bring with you?
Yeah.
All that short game.
One of the things we've been working on a lot is having more room in my swing. So getting the club out from back behind my head. I'll have a tendency to get the club back there, have it set more behind my head so it feels like I have more width.
Okay. You use a training aid too with some of your practice, correct?
Yeah. I use my form grip. I get made fun of a lot for this, but I use it all the time. Like Randy said, I grew up with kind of a weird grip, and so we had to fix it over time. And so I use this club as just a little reminder a lot of times just to get my hands in the right position.
So for people at home watching, it's really just saying how important it is to have a good grip and then to be consistent with it. So whether it be using a training aid or maybe like lines on someone's glove.
Yeah, it's your only connection to the club head.
Yeah.
I mean, if your hands, especially if you play round grips, your hands are going to be in a different position. You're not able to feel that club head.
And this might be a great opportunity to show people, is there anything in a grip that you really like to see that you think is super important for most golfers?
Well, I just kind of walk in on this. Number one, I like to see the fingers. I love the fingers of the right hand because this is such a feel. The minute you have the fingers or the right hand go more to the palm, show them how you go to the palm. Okay, then the feel is transmitted to about that point or somewhere in the middle of the hand.
Yeah.
And by having it up in the fingers, you have a much better feel for the club face. The other thing I look at, you know, stronger grips I'm a little partial to because I think you can do more with them. But I do not like to see this thumb sticking outside a grip. In other words, when you have a grip where your thumb is a little bit too far for a right-handed player to the left, you grip down, it leaves a gap in the right hand, so your feel is not the same. I like to make sure that right hand is just covering that thumb up.
Yeah, in the seam.
Right in the seam.
So something like this is what you don't want to see.
Yeah, where it's sticking out and see a thumbnail or part of his grip.
Right, you want that thumb, that left thumb, for a right-handed golfer to be covered.
Scottie's showing it perfectly.
No, this
Just
is
covering it like that.
I mean,
right in the seam.
this is great because it sounds simple, but like a lot of golfers, they struggle with getting a good grip. So
That's
this is
right.
super helpful.
Well, and the thing about it is, he plays in a lot of different conditions. You know, you get a wet day or one of those days that's got a lot of heat. Oh, my hands are sticky. Instinctively, we go and grab a little more with the right hand. And when we do that, that changes things back here in the golf swing, especially if somebody plays at his level.
You want to see the other piece?
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean,
This was new. This was a new one. This started a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
so he's had this grip for that many years. I mean, that just shows how he has to constantly stay on top of making sure his grip is correct.
It's a good habit. It's a good habit for anybody.
Yeah.
Because I want to tell you, I see a lot of the kids when they come out here and everything, I think I get used to seeing a grip a certain way, and it's amazing. You know, they'll come back out and all of a sudden you got a little different grip, a little weaker grip, or a little bit this way. This is always a good reminder for some of the junior players just to go back to it, but make sure you put it on properly. It's not sideways or too weak and stuff like that.
And then what do you got here?
Oh boy.
This is Randy's project.
No, it's just an extension. It kind of does two things in the golf swing. Scottie, why don't you explain, number one, what we make it for, and we found there was a byproduct.
Yeah, so we originally made it my swing. I was getting in this habit to where I'd get the club too far this way and it would go across the line. And so this extension is more visual for me because I can see where the club is pointing and feel it. And so in order to get the club pointed more in the set position down the line versus across the line, I can kind of see it out of the corner of my eye. So that was the first deal. And it helps me feel that position. And then when I turn through, I got to get my rear end out of the way, which is one of the things we've been working on for years.
You've got to get it to stay back, because go ahead and show
Yeah.
if you did it the wrong way.
Yeah, so if I went across this way.
So now you got that stick pointing kind of back behind you.
Back behind me,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Now watch what the lower body has to do to get it back.
Here, I'll kind of come this way.
Yep.
My hips will go up and I'll kind of basically go into the golf ball, basically so I can somehow hit it straight from that position.
Right. But this is great though, because I mean, you know, people at home watching can use this like maybe it's a pencil or something in the butt of a club.
The pencil.
The pencil.
Oh, okay.
So when I want to use my regular clubs, like if I'm just hitting balls, you could literally just take the pencil and stick it in the top of any grip.
If someone, for example, is like laid off at the top, they could try to point it back behind them in the direction that your tendency is, right? So it's like whatever your fault is, you can use this as a visual to help correct the backswing.
But I think the byproduct, when he's swinging back through and you've got this stick coming around the corner right here, you will stay back a little bit better and stay in posture.
I'm never going to actually hit this during my swing.
Sure.
Like this, if I did, it would really hurt, first of all, but it's just a feeling.
Yeah.
Like, so you can kind of feel and see where that is. And same way on the way through, just because the club's longer, like you said, instinctively, I'm going to get it up out of the way.
Can we see you hit some balls with this?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm slightly afraid
Just
for you
one?
right now.
Yeah, me too. I'm a little cold. Stand back. Oh, cut. Right there.
So that's great. So your mind's sensing that stick's coming out of the club, and
Yeah, like I said, you can just kind of, I'll never actually hit this, but it's just a feel. And then you can kind of feel it there, and then on the way through, just get out of the way.
Randy, Scottie's an incredible driver of the ball. He's also an unbelievable wedge player. How do you get someone to become a great wedge player?
Hard work.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Hard work has a lot to do with it, and really, any great wedge player has some technique involved, obviously, but they all have a great awareness of where the club face is. You'll notice that great wedge players don't hit the ball really that high in the air.
Yeah.
They keep the flight down, they control the first bounce. You know, they control the contact so they can control the green.
Yep.
Also knowing how far they're going to hit a shot.
Another great wedge player, one of the all-time best, is a person you coached for a long time, Justin Leonard.
Yeah.
And he would hit unbelievable flighted wedges.
You know, I'll try to get him to hit a short shot around the green. He says, Randy, you hit the ball way up in the air with a wedge, You only have that for emergency use only. Control the flat, control that first hop, and that's really important.
So anything in the technique side that you would suggest people try to become a better wedge player?
Well, number one, to keep the hands quiet.
Okay.
Hands are for feeling, not for generating speed. If you try to generate a lot of speed with a lofted club like that, what are you going to do? You're just going to add spin to it. And boy, I hit it hard, but it's going to spin back up. Once it gets up in the air, it can go anywhere.
What we always talk about is like a Stricker-like feel.
I see.
And so basically feel the club set and match it on the follow through. And my tendency will be, I'll get the club to kind of a position, I'll kind of drop it and go at it a little too hard.
That's a speed move.
It's a speed move. And so just try to keep that room, especially when I'm trying to take off spin, is almost feeling just dead hands. Just no extra movement.
He did say something I think is very important, is matching up both sides of the swing. You know, I don't mind seeing him if he gets it back to a certain point, going through and letting it go to here and then fold it up a little bit. That's okay. But when you can match it on both sides, in other words, the length of the backswing, back through impact, matches up to what you did on the backswing. It gives you a little bit of symmetry to the swing. It also gives you a chance not to overhit it at the bottom, because you're point A to point B. You don't want to go point A and then clobber it and try to hit point B. It's very tough.
How about how to practice your wedges?
Well, you can see Scottie's got TrackMan out here.
Yeah.
And that gives you a real good reading, obviously, on your carry distance. It's a wonderful tool for that. But for like the average people that don't run with the TrackMan all the time, you can take your laser, you can shoot distances all across a practice area and get several of them. The key distances are the ones that are between the full distance and the next club.
I see.
And that's where you want to spend a great deal of your time, on how to reduce it down. Scottie, what do you got in that lob wedge today?
98 maybe?
98?
Okay, so you take a laser finder, you zap different targets, hit to these targets.
Right.
And
But
you're
you establish your full distance with each wedge.
Yeah.
That's where the key is. What'd you get?
103.
And then if I understand this correctly, so what would be your next club? The sandwich?
Yes.
What's your full for that?
So 117 today, probably 15.
Okay, so now he would hit a full sandwich, and he's basically trying to fill in this gap from that 115 to 98.
Yeah,
or whatever it is.
and to a little bit below that.
Yeah.
Just with wedges, you are always hitting different kinds of shots, depending on conditions, depending on firmness of the greens and wind and stuff.
Call it. What do you think?
I have no idea. It's too cold. Yeah, 14-2. That's pretty
14-2.
close.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you'll just work down the ladder.
You bet.
What's the next yardage you're trying to hit?
Let's go 108.
108?
There's, it's not always 4 yards or 2 yards.
Right.
It's random distances
Right.
in there. Once he's gotten to the talent level he is, you can call all kinds of numbers.
I know you've talked about this. It's like if you're working hard on your wedge game, have some minimum standard, whether it be, hey, I'm just gonna always hit a green with a wedge, right? You may not be as precise as Scottie, but to have some standard of where this is what I'm going after as a 5 handicap, 10 handicap, whatever it is.
Well, you can take a 5 or 10 handicapper, and you can almost make buck that from 130 and in, they're going to make a bogey from the middle of the fairway, and that is you just can't have that happen. At worst case, you're going to get on a green 2-putt. But the more proficient you get at it, then all of a sudden you tighten the circle around that hole to where your putts are shorter, and it does nothing but lower your scores.
While the players coming through Royal Oaks during Randy's time have changed, one theme among them has remained the same: passing knowledge along to the next generation. It's a theme that continues today as Scottie shares his experience and passion for the game with many of the juniors that practice day in and day out at Royal Oaks.
I might have actually gotten there.
Nice. Randy, this right here, this has come through for decades out at Royal Oaks. This is the culture that you created here with developing golfers.
Again, very lucky to have this kind of talent. But better than that, it's been a lot of fun to watch it. But it's always fun when Scottie is out here, because he has kind of got this little following of minions. And I don't know which one's the bigger junior. He's just the tallest junior, is basically it. They just have a marvelous time, and I think it's helped Scottie a great deal, but I don't think he understands how much it's helping them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I used to be doing what these guys did when I was a kid, and so, I mean, it's just fun kind of being on the other side now. Yeah.
Now, I saw someone jingling keys before. Is that a part of your practice routine?
It's a little mental test.
All right, can we see it?
Did you jingle the keys?
Yeah.
Well, he just turned 16, so he's proud. You know, he's got his car
He's
keys
showing it off.
We just like to get in his head.
All right, let's see it. Get in his head. And this is all stuff that actually helps the golfer develop.
I think so. It keeps it loose, you know, and I think it keeps him a little bit light. Nothing is really going to get too dadgum serious and important.
Right.
You want to see a far one? You want to see driver?
You get him to call a distance.
307 carry.
Carry?
Yeah.
It's like 25 degrees.
Mel understands tracking numbers. It's what's amazing.
Really?
It's going to be 287. Oh, you're right. I was actually thinking 287.
And everybody here knows TrackMan numbers?
Oh, yeah.
Hanging around here, they see me. I use this tool all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, they'll come in and hit some shots. You know, we'll have competitions hitting wedges, and I mean, they're smart kids. They know what they're talking about, and are learning just from seeing this stuff.
We want to keep them out of club to path and all that.
Yeah, there's a lot of numbers you can get lost in on this thing, but we
just get stay
what do we
away
look
from
at?
that a little bit.
Club head speed with the driver and wedge numbers?
Not bad for that speed.
I mean, obviously, for young people to hang out with a guy who's on tour, they're going to learn so much. But then Sky's getting a lot out of this as well, right? I mean, it's just like you're saying, it probably helps them stay grounded, keeps them rooted.
Plus, he's developed a relationship with these kids, not only these kids, all the kids, because he's not that far away from being one of them right now.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks, guys. This has really been a lot of fun. Thanks, Scottie.
Enjoyable.
Thank y'all.